Hi guys, welcome back to my channel for another fun DIY project. If you saw my last video, I had to take a big piece out of the wall to get to some plumbing because there was a big leak and it was causing havoc inside my walls. I was having water coming under the baseboard. So in this video, I'm gonna be fixing the area that I had to cut out. Let's take a look at it right now. As you can see, it is about a 3 foot by 3 foot square that I need to patch back up. And I've already gone to Home Depot, I've gotten the materials. So let's get started on this project. Let's take a look at some of the materials that I've gotten. I've got some insulation here because the area was missing a little bit underneath there. And then I have 1, 2, and 3 2 foot by 2 foot pieces of drywall. We'll see if I need to use all of them. I wanted to buy extra just in case. So heading over here, I put the light on already so we can take a look at this big area. But really the first step in a drywall repair process is making sure that the area is clean, and it's gonna be as easy as possible to fit and cut pieces to size here. So as you can see on the 2x4 studs on either side, there's some screws from the previous drywall that I had to rip out. And it's really important to get rid of those so that we can have just an easy process in patching that drywall. So I need to do some cleanup here, do some prep work, get everything ready to go, make sure this area is gonna take this drywall nice and easy. And that's where I'm gonna get started. All right, so let's take a look here. I got the studs cleaned up, free of screws and debris. And again, I have perfectly straight pieces of brand new drywall from Home Depot. So I wanna make sure that I can butt these up as perfectly as I can. So I went around and made sure it was as square and as clean as possible up and down these studs. And then I want to cut a little bit further. There's a stud right here. So that I have just more studs to work with and to screw in, because that just makes the drywalling job a lot easier. I don't have to, put fake studs behind the walls. I have, these nice clean studs to work with. So I'm just gonna cut out a little bit more and then try to clean up the drywall area as much as I can before we get started with the new drywall. One quick tip when it comes to cutting drywall, this is gonna be able to tear apart really any wall, but you get these jagged, kind of cuts across the top here like this, just because that's how the teeth are set up. If you want really precise cuts, especially if you're cutting a new piece of drywall, you probably wanna use something that has a blade like this, an X-Acto knife, and you'll get more of a crisp cut like this on existing drywall. So if you really need to cut a lot of drywall really fast and you don't care how it looks, then definitely go with the standard drywall knife. If you need to do more precise cuts after you measure drywall pieces out, then definitely go with a more fine blade like this. So one of the things I wanted to do real quick was take a couple pieces of scrap 2x4 and put them under the studs here, because there was nothing there. This, as you can see, was kind of cut at some point. So I don't know why this was taken out, but just for structural support and because the studs were effectively sitting on nothing, just wanted to add those back in there, and then can put the drywall over it. Now I'm just about ready to get started with the drywalling. As you can see, this was like where the old sheet was. So I have a nice clean line and half of a stud, which is perfect. And then down here as well, I'll have to kind of move it in about a ½ an inch. And then over here, I have a fresh stud freshly cleaned stud, I should say, pulled all the screws and nails out of it. So easy place to screw in a new piece of gypsum board, AKA drywall. And then same thing over here, have a clean line with half a stud ready to go. So I need to make a couple geometric cuts to fit all this in, but we have a pretty good area to work with, so I can get started now. All right, I got my 2 foot by 2 foot piece of drywall here. It actually lines up really nicely, goes from like right here to right here and covers most of the spot. And before I do that, I want to put an access panel as well. So I picked this up at Home Depot, 6" by 9", and basically I want to put it right over here on the drywall so that in case this ever leaks again or needs to be serviced, it is accessible and not behind drywall, so we don't have to repeat this giant mess that I created a couple days ago. So what I'm going to do is trace out this. It's supposed to pop in right here. I've installed a few of these in my time and they're relatively easy. You just need to cut out this outline out of the drywall and then you can pop it right in place. So here's my outline. I'm gonna err on it being a little bit more to the right. It's not totally center because I cannot pop this through against a stud or against cast iron or piping like this. So I need a little bit of a clearance, maybe 1/4 of an inch or half an inch on the back side so that this will pop through successfully. Otherwise it won't sit flush when we go to put the panel against the drywall. So crucial step, but this should still give enough access here to this whole piping setup. All right, got everything cut out and this lines up perfectly right here. And you can see here's where the access panel will go, and it allows me to get in there if needed, tighten these screws or anything like that, check for a leak, anything that we need to do. So this basically just pops right on. Perfect. Now we have an access panel ready to go. Okay, so I'm just about ready to screw on the first panel, and what I'm gonna do before I go to screw it on is cut off this excess right here against this second stud. And I'm doing that purposefully because that allows me to then close up this section using both studs. Otherwise, it is gonna be very, very challenging and you're not gonna get a secure hold on that second piece of drywall. And it's important that you screw it in both areas versus just having kind of a floating piece right here, because as you notice, there's no stud right here along this edge. So I'm gonna back it up to this stud so that this area right here is spanning 2 studs, and then this area right here is spanning 2 studs. And that's really important for structural integrity. Otherwise, you're just gonna have a wobbly piece in the middle, and nothing that you do is gonna allow it to be secure. So I'm gonna mark it right here and then cut a straight line down this stud. So here's how I'm gonna do this. I took a second piece, as you can see, and I put it right at the halfway point of the stud. So then I'm gonna take my knife and then just make a mark and then pull it off and then go ahead and finish the job all the way through, and then hopefully I can just snap that piece off and have a nice clean line. I want to show you guys a trick I'm using. I have all these plastic shims. They come in plastic or wood. Either one works. These are obviously a little bit more durable, but the wood ones, you can break them off a little bit easier. But if you notice, there's so much texture built up on this wall here that the drywall is not flush when I put it there. So I'm using this to kind of pop out the drywall a little bit so that it has a flush finish. And I'll show you what that looks like here. So you can see how it goes nice and flush when I use this shim, and then the rest of it falls in line as well, because otherwise you'll have an indent and then your drywall repair will be very obvious. So doing what I can to make this look as nice as possible. I know it's going to be underneath here with the washer and the dryer, but you know, trying to film a video here and display some craftsmanship and show you the right way to do it so that everything comes out nice and smooth. So I took a palm sander right here and I went around the edges because it never comes out perfect. So you want to make sure it's as flush as possible, but it's looking pretty good. And now I can use some drywall putty around everything and then start to spread it out and make everything as flush as possible. I have some drywall tape as well that I'll use that I'll put around the edges to make everything nice and tight. And then after it dries, I'll do a final round of sanding, and then at some point I'll have to paint it. So now I can get started with the putty. All right, I got one coat on of putty all across the top, tape on every joint as well, right here, all over. And it's actually looking pretty good. I'm gonna load it up with more putty so that we can get as flush of a look as possible. And then down here, you know, this area right here under around the exhaust for the dryer, a little rough looking, but that's gonna be behind a baseboard that I'm gonna cut in a second here. So I'm not too worried about this bottom 5 inches. The rest of it, trying to make it as smooth as possible. It's actually looking pretty good. So I'm excited with how it's coming out. So again, I'm gonna use the rest of my putty here to give it a nice thick coat on all of the joints here so we can try to get it as clean looking as possible. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry now. Looks pretty good, not bad. Not bad. We'll zoom out a little bit here. And again, I don't care necessarily if it's absolutely perfect because no one really is ever gonna see it because I got 2 big washer and dryer machines and there's really no way to even see the back once they're in here underneath the folding table. So now I have this piece of baseboard which I've just measured and cut. We got about 68 inches here across the bottom. So, and then I need to get creative a little bit with the design because I got to go under this and then back up under this. So I'm going to cut out a little groove here to go under the dryer exhaust as well as this access panel. So try to give it a little bit of style. Here's the outline I cut for the dryer exhaust and then that access panel. So give it a little bit of style here. And now I just need to cut it out with the jigsaw. All right guys, so I let the drywall putty dry overnight. It actually looks pretty good. And yes, I put the same shirt on. It's called Continuity Between Shots in Cinema. So take note of that. So I'm gonna go around with the palm sander and then give it a final touch up. I'm really not gonna paint it honestly because again, it's gonna be sandwiched behind a big washer and dryer and I just don't care that much to paint it. It looks pretty good the way it is. So let's go ahead and give it a final sand and then we'll see how it looks. All right, gang, I'm gonna stop here for the sake of this video. The last and final step would be to nail this baseboard in and then caulk across the top. But again, it's gonna be behind a couple washers and dryers, so I might get to it eventually, but for the sake of this video, I just wanted to share the drywall repair and how to install an access panel. So again, not too hard. Hopefully you learned something in this video. Thanks again for watching, and until the next DIY video, I'll see you later.